Hello and welcome to Happy Cells and Souls. My name is Julie Powers and I'm a licensed Zumba instructor and I'm a business partner with the Juice Plus company. And my missions in life are to help people understand that life is better when they're dancing through it and to inspire healthy living around the world. But my expanded mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level, because we only get one body while we're here and we have to take care of it. But we're also supposed to spread light and love and be joyful in this lovely earth that we call home. And so I love talking with people who really impact the world in positive ways. And I've had such joy and the honor of knowing so many different people from all different walks of life. And my theory is that we can learn from everyone. And it doesn't matter what we connect on or what we find different about each other socially, culturally, religious, politics, whatever, we can learn from everybody as long as we keep our hearts and our minds open. And so today I'm so excited to be talking with Nicki Hamrah. And Nicki is someone that I met through the Juice Plus company years ago. And she's also a fellow Zumba instructor and a yoga instructor. And she is also extremely knowledgeable in all things water. Now, water pretty much runs through every aspect of everyone's life. You can't escape the need for it. And a lot of people just sort of take it for granted. But water is not created equally all places. And it's very important to know what you're putting in your body. So Nicki, thank you for joining us here and sharing what you know. And I'd love for you to just, first of all, tell a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in learning more about something that everybody has to have in their bodies every single day.
Yeah, well, thank you, Julie, so much for inviting me to this space. I definitely love connecting with like-minded individuals like yourself. And yeah, so, health and wellness has always been, something that's super important to me. And I think that this whole holistic look at, the total body, it kind of, you attract people and you kind of come in through all walks of life. I certainly came in through like the fitness path and different things have showed up, then I went really hard into nutrition, and then water became something that was important to me. So it's like an onion, you start to peel the layers and you start to see like what you need more of a little bit here, or maybe you need to tone this down a little bit. But I was an extreme athlete in the past, and still a pretty heavy exerciser. And so, water just kind of was that thing that just kept coming up. It's like, I know we're supposed to drink water. We know it's all good for us, but like, are you really doing it? Can you sit down at the end of the day and really count how many glasses you drank, or kept track of how many ounces you had? And so, I just started learning that, the body's made up of about 70% water, and, our brains are about 75% water. Blood's 83% water, our heart's 79% water. So, we are what we drink, right? So if you're not filling back up with what we're made up of, then, that was really like a big message that was coming through for me. And so water started to become really, really important. And I also learned that, just 2% dehydration can start to affect your brain function. So, that's not very much. And so, it's going to affect your digestion and how smoothly things are moving through, your memory. You can have headaches. So it really is this life force, that's kind of running through us that we all really need.
Right. I know that in some of the presentations that we used to do, we would say, if you have a headache, you don't have a Tylenol deficiency. You probably have a water deficiency. You're probably dehydrated. So drink water first and then see if your headache goes away. And a lot of people don't realize how much that water does fill up our bodies. And you're right, because a lot of people think, oh, it's just dry skin or dry eyes or dry mouth. But no, if you think about what that's doing on the outside, things that you can feel, what about your heart that's constricting more because it doesn't have the right amount of water? Or like you said, you can have memory issues or focus or whatever with your brain. If your plump little brain cells are like supposed to be like this, and all of a sudden they're like this, they can't do their jobs. But then at the end of the day, when we're looking back on all those ounces of water that we put in our body and we're patting ourselves on the back and we're going, yes, we drank so much water today. We're so proud. And then you think, what was in that water that I just drank? And, you know, I was one of those people that I used to buy bottled water all the time because it was so convenient because I had a teenage boy who was going to practice every day, you know, and so we had bottled water everywhere. And then when I realized and I learned what that water actually had in it because of the plastic, it terrified me that I'd been drinking it and putting it into my child's body for so many years. And so will you explain a little bit about, you know, how that works with the plastics that are leaching chemicals into our water and some of the other things that people might not realize?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the bottled water industry doesn't make bottled water, they make plastic bottles. So, you know, there's a lot of very loose regulations. You know, the FDA doesn't really test bottled waters. I mean, a lot of companies are just putting in tap water. You know, there have been a lot of articles that have come out that, you know, there's been like contaminants like salmonella and things in different bottled waters. And even some of the ones that you think are really good for you, like Essentia, you know, I don't like to shame any brands or anything, but it's supposed to be this alkaline water that's really good for you. But if you actually look on the back of the label, they put chemicals in their water to create an alkaline
Mhm.
environment. So it's essentially like almost taking like a Tums or like a baking soda. You know, if you add baking soda to anything, it's going to make it more alkaline. But
Mhm.
if you really want to be drinking baking soda, I mean, eventually over time, that's going to create an imbalance in your gut and your microbiome. Um, but you know, the plastic water bottles, you know, we have no idea how long that the water's been sitting in those bottles, and they're sitting on the trucks that are in the heat that are being driven across the country. And then maybe when they get to the store that they're being loaded into, they're sitting outside, you know, on racks until they get brought
Right, where
into.
that sunlight and that heat is causing a chemical reaction with the plastic, right?
Absolutely. When it gets warmed up, you know, more of that plastic is being leached into the water that we're then drinking. And, you know, plastic has been shown to cause a lot of thyroid issues, a lot of reproductive health problems. And it's also been, you know, kind of a precursor to certain cancers too. So the plastic water bottles, you know, there's a lot of health risks with that. I know it's not always possible to avoid it completely. You know, when you travel and things like that, sometimes you just need water. But you know, I try to go with either like the carton type where it's you know, like a milk carton type of
Right.
container, or even like a glass, like Voss is like a glass bottle. It's hard to find sometimes, but
Well, even those carton ones, the lining of the carton can have some BPA plastic in it. So you have to be careful to make sure that it says BPA free, right?
yeah, for sure. So definitely like reading the labels on that and making sure that the bottles or the containers are free from BPA.
So speaking of plastic, right before we hit the record button, I was telling you about a new report that I saw how microplastics, these teeny tiny plastics that you can't see, you can only see them under a microscope, that are not only just floating around in the ocean, and we're going to talk about that giant garbage patch, that several giant garbage patches that are swirling around in our oceans, but now microplastics are being found in rainwater. And so, you know, it's all because it's a cycle. You know, it gets evaporated up into the atmosphere and then it rains down, right? So do you want to talk about those giant patches of plastic and garbage that are creating this cycle of rainwater with microplastics that are affecting every water system around the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like when I started doing more research about water, I had no idea of this thing called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And it's essentially a just deposit of, you know, plastic waste. It's in between like the west coast of the United States and Hawaii. So pretty much in the center there. And it's about two sizes the size, or two times the size of the state of Texas. So we're talking about like a huge,
Huge. huge.
And it's growing every single day
And
because
that's just the biggest one, because there are several in different
yeah,
oceans.
I mean, you can just Google, plastic bottle pollution, and you can see beaches all over the world where it's washing
Right.
up. And, the marine life is being affected. There's fish that are starting to eat these things because they don't know that it's not food. And they're ingesting this plastic. And then, if we're eating the fish, like we're consuming that. The water that is being evaporated from the ocean that is filled with plastic is coming back down in our rainwater, which is watering all of our fruits and vegetables that we're then eating. So yeah, it's really a cycle
Really a
that we're
vicious
stuck
cycle.
in. And they've actually there's been some studies recently that they have found microplastics in human blood.
Yeah.
And most, like, the sources that they tested, they found that the average person that's exposed, to the average amount of plastic is consuming about a credit card's worth of plastic every week. And that just like totally blew my mind. I mean, could you imagine
Yeah,
eating a
because
credit card every
how does
week?
the liver detoxify that? The liver's not set up to detoxify that kind of plastic. So it has to be going into places in our body that it it can't stay. It's going to cause a problem. It's going to
And
cause.
a lot of doctors, they say they don't really know like the effects that this is going to have on the human body. I mean, they know that it's affecting red blood cells and the ability to carry oxygen throughout the rest of the body. And like you said, it's getting lodged in our kidneys and the liver. And like, because this is becoming such an epidemic and it hasn't been studied long term, they don't really know the effects, but it's not good, that's for sure.
Right, right. So there is hope. There's hope. We don't want to leave people feeling hopeless, because there are ways that you can look for cleaning up the water that we drink. And so I know that, we talked about several places around the world, Lourdes, France, and the place in Mexico, and the place in the Himalayan mountains, where they have this healing water that is, you want to talk about that had the properties that were connected to all of that, and how there are some systems that you can actually purchase, you can get through the marketplace, that can mimic what that healing water is doing. And why is it doing that in your, why is it doing anything good for the body?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Oh, and you
again,
might also want to mention the whole checking your tap water contaminants.
yes, yes, for sure. So I'm going to throw out a bunch of like links and stuff that I'm sure you'll give to everybody at the end of the call. But so yeah, when I was on this water journey, I started to learn about these like three kind of miracle places throughout the world that had this healing water. And people from villages all over would come with their jugs and they would fill it up and take it back to their families, because they knew that if someone was sick or not feeling well, when they drank this water, it made them better. It was actually healing them. And so when scientists started to study the water and to figure out like what is it that's in this water that's making people heal, the one thing that they found that was commonality between all these places, what it was really high in active hydrogen. And so hydrogen itself is a really, really it's just really great for healing the body. It's a very big, it reduces oxidative stress and it reduces inflammation. And so a lot of these same things that we know, like fruits and vegetables, do for us, this is what active hydrogen does. I mean, you've heard of, I'm sure, like hypobaric chambers or whatever. It's sort of the same thing. And, you can get active hydrogen through drinking water. You can get it through, inhalation. You can also get it through like a saline solution from an IV. But if you want more information on molecular hydrogen, there's actually been over 1,000 studies that they've done on it that have shown 150 or more disease processes that it 100% made that process better. And there's zero side effects. So essentially, there's no bad downside to drinking water with active hydrogen in it.
Right.
But as far as like our tap water goes, there is a website you can go to called EWG, and they will actually test all of the contaminants that are in the water that you just put in your zip code. And, it'll bring up things like chlorine is usually like the top one, and there's different byproducts of chlorine too. because, our tap water it has to be sanitized because of, like, we just talked about all the junk that's in our
Right.
ocean right now. And chlorine is really the only way to do that, or different like products of chlorine. But we also know, drinking chlorine is not good for us. It's got a huge link to asthma.
Right.
So you can, get a specific filter through, one company that I recommend for people. It's a pre-filter that you can kind of just hook up underneath your sink, called Ion Faucets, and they will test the water that's in your direct municipality, and they'll be able to tell, like, oh, this person's water is really high in heavy metals, or this person's really high in pharmaceuticals, and they will produce a filter that is specific to your needs and get those contaminants out. So those are two really great resources that I love, about just kind of finding out what's in your tap water.
Right. Well, and something that you just mentioned, we have 4 minutes left to keep on our
Okay.
schedule. So it always goes so fast, is the pharmaceuticals. And a lot of people don't realize how many pharmaceutical drugs are in the water that they are using on a daily basis. And they're just trace amounts, of course, because they're trying to get as much of it out as they can, but you can only do so much. And the more that we have become such a medicated society, and people are disposing of their medications through the sewage system, through landfills, that it ends up getting into the groundwater and then making its way back into the system that comes into your home. There's all kinds of pharmaceutical grade drugs that we're just filling up our water bottles for our kids, and just, it's craziness. It's totally craziness. And so you work with a company called Kangen, right? And
The company's Enagic, but the water is called
the
Kangen.
Kangen water, because it is this hydro. Give me the scoop on it. Say the tagline, because I'm going to mess it up.
Yeah, the molecular hydrogen. So
Molecular hydrogen.
Enagic is a Japanese-based company, and so if you know anything about the country of Japan, they're very health conscious. They, as a society, they live to be very old and are, very have tons of vitality. And so they also knew the benefits of molecular hydrogen, and so they were like, how can we get this into people's homes who can't travel to Lourdes, France, and fill up their jug, and get that naturally occurring from nature. And so what they found was basically that molecular hydrogen that's naturally occurring in nature. The easiest way to describe it is almost like if you've ever been around like a body of water during a rainstorm and seen like lightning strike like a lake or the ocean, and like it's energizing that water. And so the energy that's coming off of it, that was creating more hydrogen in that water. Well, the system that we use, it's got titanium plates inside it, and through an electrolysis process, it does the same thing. So it's essentially like electrifying the water, creating that molecular hydrogen. So you've got your water molecule, which is H2O. The electricity basically blasts it apart. So now the hydrogens are separated from each other. You've got one hydrogen, that's active hydrogen now free floating through your water. You're drinking that, and it's doing all those good things. It's getting into your cells so much easier because it's really tiny. So it's
Right.
hydrating you at about 6 times faster than tap water or bottled water can do.
Right.
Reducing all that stress, eliminating toxins. So yeah, that's basically how they learn to mimic that naturally occurring in nature.
And also with like the water that comes down from the mountainside, let's say there's a snowpack at the top of the mountain, and as it comes down through the creeks and over the rocks, and it's connecting to all that nature, and it's picking up different things from the rocks, and it's getting that living energy in it. That's so different than things like reverse osmosis and some of these other filtration systems that actually end up killing the water. And we've already gone 20 minutes, so let's just do a quick 1-minute recap on killing off the water and having dead water versus living water. If you can pack that into 60 seconds or less, Nicki.
Yeah, absolutely. So, reverse osmosis water served a purpose for people that are going on camping trips. That's really what it was designed for. If you didn't have, access to a clean water source and it was going to be a short time. because it will kill, the bacteria, listeria, salmonella, anything that might be in that water that you don't want to drink and get sick from. But it's killing everything else. It's killing all the minerals, all the nutrients, all that good stuff that you get when it's running down the mountain, and the sunlight's hitting it, and all of that good energy. So reverse osmosis is essentially dead water. It's not necessarily a bad thing. If you do choose to drink that, you're going to want to put minerals back in. So there's drops that you can get to remineralize the water. But if you're just drinking it alone, scientists have found that over time, people that do drink that reverse osmosis can start to have nutritional deficiencies, because the water likes to bind to an antioxidant. And
Uh,
if the water has none and you're drinking it, it's going to start pulling it out of your bones, out of your organs, and you're going to start seeing deficiencies in your body.
right. Which is scary. Well, I am so glad that there are people like you out there who you're not a scientist, but you have studied a lot of different areas through fitness, through the body, through nutrition, and you have done your own research using all of these experts. And you're just coming to us as a concerned individual who's trying to change the world in a better way and help everybody be as healthy as possible. And that's all we can do, is try to spread the word that we matter. So we need to take care of ourselves. And the better that we feel, the better we can do for others. And so, is there any last parting words that you would like to share?
Well, again, I'm just so grateful that you allowed me to come and just share this space with you and share why I'm so passionate about water. And yeah, I would just encourage anyone who's curious about what's in their local water to check out those websites, run a test on your water, see what's inside of it. And if anyone has questions, definitely refer them back to me. I'm happy to help and provide any other additional resources.
All right. Thank you so much, Nikki. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.